And that's an important distinction. Sometimes we reach for something because we genuinely want pleasure. That's part of living. But sometimes we're reaching because there's some feeling within ourselves that we just don't want to sit with. Loneliness or fear, rejection, boredom, anger, grief, anxiety or shame, disappointment, uncertainty. And then the goal isn't necessarily make me happy, but the goal is simply make me stop feeling this thing that I don't like. Welcome to the Bounce Back Black Woman podcast. I'm Del, coach, author, mom, and your sister along this journey of healing, growth, resilience, and living more intentionally. As Black women, we know all too well that life can break our hearts in more ways than one. But here in this space, we heal, grow, rebuild, and bounce back together. Because it's not just you. It's not just me. It's us. Hey there, my friend, and welcome back to Bounce Back Black Woman. I want to start out by asking you to think about something for a minute. Imagine that you've had a day. Work was ridiculous. Somebody got on your last nerve. You're exhausted, maybe even overwhelmed. Maybe you're sad or even lonely. Maybe you're worried about something that you can't fix. Maybe you're angry. Maybe you're disappointed. Maybe nothing particularly terrible happened at all. You just feel off. What do you reach for? Do you open the refrigerator? Pull up DoorDash on your phone? Go to Costco for the one thing that you need and somehow end up leaving with $147 worth of things that, in addition to your list of things you can't live without, you never realized were missing from your life? Because that's how Costco works. Do you open Amazon or pour yourself a glass of wine? Pick up your phone and start scrolling? Or turn on Netflix and tell yourself you're only going to watch one episode? Or do you throw yourself into work that you've brought home? Clean the entire house? Go to sleep? Call somebody? Or text somebody? What do you reach for? Because every one of us has ways that we've learned to make ourselves feel better, or at least feel different when we're uncomfortable. And before we go any further, I want to make something really clear. Wanting comfort is not a problem. Comfort is human. When something hurts, of course we want relief. When we're exhausted, we want rest. When we're sad, we want soothing. When we're lonely, we want connection. When we're overwhelmed, we want escape. There's nothing inherently wrong with any of that. And so the question isn't, why do I need comfort? The more interesting question might just be, what am I reaching for to get it? And maybe even a more important question might be, is the thing I'm reaching for actually comforting me? Or is it simply just helping me escape myself for a little while? Because there's a difference between comforting yourself and escaping yourself. And sometimes the exact same behavior can do both. The same thing can serve two very different purposes. Let's start with food. You had a horrible day. You come home, put on your pajamas, order your favorite meal, have dessert, and watch something that makes you laugh. Did you emotionally eat? Maybe. Did you also simply comfort yourself after a crappy day? Maybe. Those things aren't necessarily mutually exclusive. You see, food is supposed to be enjoyable, and food is connected to celebration. family, culture, memories, connection, comfort. There's nothing morally superior about eating broccoli instead of having a piece of chocolate cake when what you really, really wanted was chocolate cake. We're not doing food shame over here. But maybe there's another version. Every night when you're lonely, you eat. Every time when you're anxious, you eat. Whenever something happens that you don't want to think about, you eat. And afterward, you don't actually feel comforted. You feel guilty or physically uncomfortable or disappointed in yourself. And whatever emotion you were trying not to feel, it's still there. Only now you've simply added another feeling on top of it. And that is different. Not because the food became bad all of a sudden, but because the job you were asking the food to do was not the right job. And shopping can work exactly the same way. You see something that you love, you can afford it, you buy it. It makes you happy. Great. Enjoy those shoes because you deserve them. But maybe you've noticed something else. Every time you're stressed, Amazon. Every time you're disappointed, Costco. Every time you feel like your life needs a reset, new clothes or new furniture or new makeup or new gadgets, new something. Because for a few minutes, buying something gives you just a little lift. There's anticipation, there's possibility, there's options, and then there's a package coming. Something new is on the way. And maybe what you're really craving isn't the thing at all. Maybe you're craving the feeling that something good is coming. And that, my friend, is worth noticing. Not judging, noticing. And that's because awareness gives you information. Sometimes we're not trying to feel good. We're trying not to feel. And that's an important distinction. Sometimes we reach for something because we genuinely want pleasure. That's part of living. But sometimes we're reaching because there's some feeling within ourselves that we just don't want to sit with. Loneliness or fear, rejection, boredom, anger, grief, anxiety or shame, disappointment, uncertainty. And then the goal isn't necessarily make me happy, but the goal is simply make me stop feeling this thing that I don't like. So we scroll and scroll and scroll, and next thing you know, 2 hours are gone. For those 2 hours, maybe we didn't have to think. We binge watch a show until 1 o'clock in the morning. Not because we're dying to know what happens in episode 7, but because going to bed is going to mean lying in the dark with your thoughts. We stay busy. We find another project. We volunteer for something. We reorganize a closet. We answer emails at 11:30 at night. And everybody says, "Oh my gosh, she's so productive." Meanwhile, maybe we're just terrified of being still. And that's why I don't think that coping always looks dysfunctional. Sometimes coping gets applauded. Working excessively gets called ambition. Constant busyness gets called productivity. Always being available to everybody else gets called generosity. Exercise can become another way not to feel. Even personal development can become avoidance if you're constantly reading another book or taking another course or listening to another podcast. And yes, I recognize the irony as I tell you this on a podcast. But you're never actually sitting with the thing that you already know. You see, sometimes the behavior looks perfectly healthy from the outside, but the question is still, what job is it doing for me? And sometimes What we reach for is a person. And okay, we're all grown here, so let's talk about this one. Because sometimes what we reach for isn't food, isn't Amazon, it isn't Netflix, it isn't even the phone itself. It's somebody whose number is in the phone. Maybe what you reach for isn't a thing at all. Maybe it's that person that you know you have absolutely no business texting. You know the one. It's late. You're lonely. You're bored. You're feeling rejected. You're scrolling through your phone list and suddenly, hey, stranger. Ma'am, put the phone down. Put the phone down. Because sometimes what we're reaching for isn't really the person. We're reaching for attention, validation, affection, familiarity, connection, the temporary feeling of being wanted. And maybe you already know exactly how this story is going to end. You know that this person isn't offering the kind of relationship that you really actually want. And you know that tomorrow morning you're probably going to be asking yourself, why did I open that door again? But tonight, for a little while, you don't feel lonely. And that's the thing I want you to notice. Not, I'm so stupid, why did I text them? No. Not, I have no self-control. Not that either. Not even, I need to delete their number. Although, maybe you do. But first, I want you to be asking this. What was I asking that interaction to give me? Because sometimes what we reach for isn't a thing at all. Sometimes it's a person, and sometimes the person isn't actually what or who we want. We want the feeling that we believe they can temporarily give us. And friend, that is useful information. Because if what you actually need is connection, then maybe the question becomes, is this the kind of connection I really want? If what you need is reassurance, maybe the question becomes, is there another way I can receive or give myself reassurance without reopening something that I already know isn't healthy for me? If what you need is to feel wanted, why does this particular person's attention get to determine whether I feel desirable? Again, it's about awareness, not shame. Because shame usually doesn't help us change, but understanding might. I want you to remember this. Comfort and numbing are not the same thing. So let's make that distinction. Comfort says, this hurts, and I'm going to care for myself while I'm experiencing it. But numbing says, I don't want to experience this. Give me something that makes it disappear for a little while. And I want to be careful here because I don't think that numbing automatically means that something is terribly wrong with you. Sometimes we all need a break. Sometimes life is just heavy and you need 2 hours where you're not processing it. Watch the movie, eat the ice cream, take the nap, go shopping within your budget. Turn your phone off, laugh with your friends. You don't have to spend every waking moment analyzing your emotions. Good grief. That sounds exhausting. The question is whether the break eventually ends. Can you come back to yourself? Can you come back to the situation? Can you eventually feel what needs to be felt, even if it's hard or painful? Can you address what needs to be addressed? Or do you find yourself needing more and more of the behavior because the underlying feeling never actually goes anywhere? That is when the comfort you've chosen may have quietly become avoidance. I want you to pay attention to the afterwards. Here's one way I think we can begin recognizing the difference. Pay attention to how you feel afterward, not only during. whatever the thing is that you've reached for. Comfort tends to leave us feeling cared for. But maybe the problem still exists. Maybe we're still sad. But something about the experience restored us a little. Numbing often leaves another problem behind. You see, you were stressed, you shopped, now you're stressed and you're worried about your credit card bill. And you feel guilt. You were sad, you ate, now you're sad and criticizing yourself. You were overwhelmed. You scrolled for 3 hours. Now you're overwhelmed and it's midnight. You were lonely. You texted Mr. Hey Stranger. And now you're lonely and wondering why you reopened that dang situation. You were anxious. You poured one drink, then another, and tomorrow the anxiety is still waiting for you. But now you probably have a headache. And again, this is not about shame. This is about information. And we are the right person to gather all of the information about ourselves, honestly and truthfully. So I want you to ask yourself, did this actually soothe me? Or did this postpone what I was feeling and create something else that I'll need to still deal with later? That is a very, very different question from, why can't I stop doing this? Don't just remove the behavior. You have to understand the need to remove the behavior. And that may be the most important part of this entire conversation. You see, if you simply take away the thing that you've been reaching for without understanding why you're reaching for it, you haven't necessarily solved the problem, my friend. If food has become comfort and you simply tell yourself, I'm not eating that anymore, okay. But where is the comfort coming from now? If shopping gives you something to anticipate and you cut up the credit card, what are you looking forward to instead? If scrolling helps you escape your thoughts and you delete the app, what happens when the thoughts show up again? And if that person gives you the validation you needed or thought you needed, and then you finally block them, what are you going to do to begin building a sense of worth, self-worth, that doesn't depend on their attention? If staying busy keeps grief at a distance, and then you finally slow down, what support will you need when grief catches up to you again? You see, this is why behavior change without awareness can be so difficult. Sometimes we're trying to remove the solution that our brain found for us without addressing the problem that it was trying to solve, even if that solution isn't working very well anymore. So instead of beginning with, how do I stop doing this? I want you to consider beginning with this. What does this do for me? What feeling does it give me? What feeling does it help me avoid? What need am I trying to meet? Comfort, connection, rest, validation, excitement, control, relief, escape, something to look forward to? And then after you answer that, you ask, is there another way that I can meet that need that doesn't create another problem for me? And that is where choice comes back into the picture. You see, you don't need to turn this into another reason to judge yourself. Please don't listen to this episode and start psychoanalyzing every cookie that you eat. Sometimes you just wanted to have the cookie. Eat it. Sometimes you bought the shoes just because they were fabulous. Wear them. Sometimes you watched 6 episodes because the show was good. Enjoy yourself. And sometimes you text somebody because you genuinely wanted to talk to them or see them or whatever. Fine. We're not trying to remove pleasure from your life. What we're trying to do is increase awareness. The question isn't, am I allowed to do this? You're grown. Do what you want. The question is, am I choosing this, or am I automatically reaching for it because I don't know what else to do with the feelings, the big feelings that I have inside? And my friend, there's a big difference between those two things. And once you recognize the pattern, then you have options. Maybe tonight what you actually need isn't food. You need rest. So you take a nice long bath and listen to some calming music. Sit and reflect or journal and then go to bed early. Maybe you don't need 3 hours of Instagram. You might need 20 minutes to let yourself just be sad and feel the sadness and check in on why it is you're feeling sad. Maybe you don't need to text that person. You need connection from somebody capable of giving you the kind of connection that you actually want. Maybe you don't need another project. You need permission to just sit down. And sometimes you may still choose the ice cream, and that's okay. But now you're choosing it because you want ice cream, not because ice cream got assigned the impossible job of fixing your entire life. And that, my friend, is progress. There's a verse in Psalm 46 that simply says, "Be still and know that I am God." And I think sometimes the hardest part of that instruction isn't knowing that God is God. It's the be still part. We glaze often right over that first part. But it's there for a reason. Be still. Because stillness gives things room to surface. The thoughts we've been outrunning. The feelings we've been distracting ourselves from. The questions that we don't have answers for. And sometimes reaching for something, food, shopping, work, scrolling another person, is easier than sitting quietly long enough to notice what's actually happening inside of us. But stillness doesn't have to mean solving everything. Sometimes it simply means creating enough quiet to be able to say, "God, this is what I'm actually feeling on the inside. I'm lonely. I'm scared. I'm angry. I'm disappointed. I'm grieving. I am overwhelmed. I don't know what to do." And maybe, instead of immediately reaching for something that changes how we feel, we can occasionally sit with God long enough to understand what we're feeling in the first place. So here's your challenge for the week. Don't stop eating. Don't cancel Amazon. Don't throw away your television. And please don't send anybody some dramatic text that says, "Coach Dell told me I can't talk to you anymore." I did not say that. Instead, I want you to catch yourself reaching. Just once. The next time you have the urge to reach for something, just because you're stressed, lonely, sad, bored, or overwhelmed, angry, or uncomfortable, I want you to pause. You don't even have to stop yourself from doing it. Just pause long enough to ask, what am I feeling right now? And what am I hoping this will do for me? And will this comfort me, or am I trying to escape myself for even just a little while? And then go ahead and make your choice. Whatever it is. Maybe you decide to still order dessert or watch the movie or buy the thing. Or maybe you decide to call a friend instead of sending a "Hey stranger" text. Maybe you pray. Maybe you journal or go for a walk. Cuddle with your dog. The win this week isn't perfect behavior. The win is noticing. Because awareness creates choice. And once you have choice, you don't have to keep reaching automatically. Now, speaking of creating spaces where we don't have to carry or avoid everything by ourselves, I want to remind you that on September 21st, Earth, Wind, and Fire Day, we're gathering for the first Bounce Back Black Woman Kitchen Table Conversation Live. This is a live virtual gathering where we can actually talk with each other, not just me talking through a microphone and you listening on the other side. We'll reflect, we'll laugh, we'll have some honest conversation, and we'll create room for the kinds of things that we don't always get to talk about in our everyday lives. If you'd like a seat at the table, make sure that you're following Bounce Back Black Woman on Instagram and TikTok, and visit bouncebackblackwoman.com for registration information. I would love to see you there. So until next time, my friend, pay attention to what you reach for, not so you can judge yourself, but so you can understand yourself. And remember, there is a difference between comforting yourself and escaping yourself. Well, that's it for today, my friend. I really hope this episode inspired, encouraged, or just plain comforted you. If so, please share it with a friend who might be struggling in her own healing journey. And if you take a moment to leave a quick review on Apple Podcasts, you'll help other women find encouragement through their heartbreak. Remember that God is holding your hand along this journey, and guess what? I'm holding the other. Life is short, so bounce back, Black woman.